As a graphic designer and content creator, I spend most of my time staring at a box of light and almost always working by myself. In addition to being alone 90% of the time I'm working, my life is also very routine oriented. Same cup of coffee in the morning, same methods used in Photoshop and editing to achieve the goals I want in my art, same climbing gym after work, and same studio to work in each day. This level of focus, solitude, and consistency is very important for my creative process, but it does not paint the whole picture. You need new experiences, new memories, and new places to inform your future work. I recently traveled all the way to France to visit some artist and creator friends in Paris, and later that week somehow stay in a 19th century castle in the countryside of France. First of all, going to Paris in general is pretty insane, but staying in a fucking chateau, this whole experience really blew my mind. What was a young kid who grew up in Southern California doing to be able to travel all the way to Rennes, France to stay in basically the X Mansion with some of the most talented and creative people I have ever met? It's crazy that all this is possible too, just because I started posting graphic design content on YouTube in 2020 during the lockdown. I would never have thought that awkward Jesse trying to make design tutorials in a 100-degree apartment, sweating my balls off with no AC during a global pandemic, would transpire into me living a life I could have never imagined. I am so grateful to be able to even go on this trip, but to stay on the point, the reason I bring this all up is what could be more out of my norm than the country of France, a castle, and instead of being alone, being surrounded by 20 plus creatives all day. It's so cool being around other creators, and despite the fact that they do different disciplines from graphic design, it's still inspiring. I love all my friends back home, and I love the stuff I get to do on a daily basis. But there's something that hits different about a bunch of strangers and new friends connecting so easily right from the jump. Everyone is so dedicated to their craft that it creates a special energy in the air that cannot be forced or replicated in other environments. People like this are so helpful in executing everyone's visions as well. There's no judgment, apprehension, disdain, or really any negative sentiment for having to put the different pieces together. It was nice just to be creative in other aspects as well, outside of design or visual art, and just help people with their passion projects and collaborate. I especially got inspired by so many of my talented filmmaker friends and just going around helping them film. I even worked on a fun collaborative project with this talented director named Sonia. We combined her talents of cinematography and a beautiful eye for composition with some of my type and layout skills. We whipped it up on the quickness, but I thought it came out pretty cool. Being in nature and isolated from the rest of the world is also so great for my mind. It's so easy to get caught up in the same visual stimuli and get stuck making the same type of things. Getting inspiration as a visual artist or designer doesn't have to just be about direct visuals from an artistic medium. Nothing you find on Pinterest or in an old book somewhere is going to inspire you as much as living your own life. The human experience truly is all the inspiration you need, and it might not feel that way directly at times, but you need to trust the process. This trip was a good reset for me. Even though we did do some work, a majority of the time was filled with relaxing, drinking beers, and shooting the shit. And that may not sound like some artful way of getting inspired, but for me, that's the key. The more life you live, the more you have to pull from and adds to your own unique vision in any given project. Anyone can learn the tools, work in a specific art style, but no one can replicate you. And you can't learn who you is without experiencing life and taking time away from the work. Resting your burnt out mind and going into this absorption mode is such a crucial part of the creative process. I myself am a chronic overworker. I'm not here to give you this impression that I'm this carefree person who is just going on these trips all day, dilly-dallying. I put in a lot of the work beforehand so that I can fully enjoy these other aspects of my life. I'm making this as a message to you just as much as a reminder to myself. Hard work creates space for rest that can later be enjoyed without guilt. I get so many new ideas just being around these people. Oftentimes, inspiration feels like such a tricky and fleeting thing, especially as a designer. But when you're around like-minded people, it just feels easy. You can't help but be inspired. It wasn't just at this castle either. You don't need to go to some magical place to be inspired. You just need to be somewhere different. The city of Paris is such a culture shock to Los Angeles and gave me so much inspiration in its own right. It felt kind of at home in a weird way though, because Paris is dirty as fuck just like LA, but in the grimy way that just feels right. Something that feels familiar. And even though I'd normally eat street tacos or burgers out on the street in California, here I was housing 25 snails with the homie Ethan. And I also was lucky enough to see a bunch of cool design in France. Good typography is worldwide. This trip was exactly what I needed to get me inspired for some upcoming projects. Because after this trip, it was really time to lock in. And unfortunately, being around this good type of company always feels so short. The time really does just fly by when you're around great people. Leaving from hanging out with all these friends is always so weird too. I really have not known these people for that long of a time, but I feel like I know them so well. I mean, it was only in, I think, February or March when I met a lot of these creators, but I think that like-minded experience just accelerated some of our friendship and ability to bond. And I think it's a different level of bonding when you guys do the same stuff, more or less. The sketchiest time to pull my phone out, but...
Dude, these people are sheep,
What up, people?
Yeah.
Those really are people, but they look like, because look how it looks like herds.
Look, there's a few groups of them.
Oh, that!
Yeah, what do you think I was looking at?
Bro's introspective or something like that, or whatever. And it's also not lost on me what a dream-like experience some of this all is. I'm not trying to make this to make it seem like you have to travel around the world to be inspired. It's just about changing your perspective a little bit and getting out of the mundane. I mean, I personally can't believe I get to travel and hang out with such dope people. Man, it's crazy. You really can make your own path no matter where you come from. I would never in a million years thought I'd be traveling around France with these talented internet people, but here we are. And it feels so free traveling and being around new people, getting inspiration. But that's just one side of it. The thing that makes me equally as excited is to take in all this new information and put it into practice in my future work. Locking in, as one might say. Inspiration is everywhere, and the more new things you try, the better chance you'll stumble upon something great.